So we got another Transformer Tuesday on our hands, and Hasbro once again revealed some new product for us to pick up and get excited about. In this case, it's something that isn't too big of a surprise because between early listings that were leaked online and knowing about the character names and people pretty much speculating based with the molds that were available to us, combined with a small snippet of box art that was available from a previous iteration, we pretty much know what we got before we got to see it. It's really just more about the visuals at this point. So let's talk about today's reveal: Transformers Generations War for Cybertron Kingdom Battle Across Time Collection Deluxe 2-Pack, G1 Sideswipe, and Maximal Skywarp. And that one is the one that really surprises me. But let's go for the more vanilla, boring one of the two. I know some people are still excited about this one here, but the G1 Sideswipe. So they took the Siege mold, they changed it just enough so it's different from the previous Cybertronian-esque kind of Siege mold. It's, for me personally, I have no problem with this, but if they just would have had the spoiler on this Countach. I know it's not, it's a Countach-like LP 2000, LP 500 kind of looking Countach here, but if they would have just had the spoiler, I think I would have been really cool with this. I would have actually kind of loved it in a lot of ways, but without it, just feels a little naked. But otherwise, it's the same mold. There's little differences here and there. When it comes from an aesthetic point of view, from the Cybertronian look to that of a Earth mode, and I'm doing air quotes here, Earth mode, and that's kind of what they call it here too. They kind of go for that. I'll read the little blurb that they got here afterwards, and we'll get into that. But so, the Sideswipe looks fine. It does, and considering that the Generation 1 colored one we had before that from Siege is a dirty colored one that has all those Siege damage on this is going to be the go-to for a lot of people. It's still a long way to go from perfection from, let's say, the Masterpiece that we got all those years ago, which I still think is an incredible Masterpiece toy. One of those, perfect masterpieces. But this comes pretty close. So I feel that it is a good alternative in a lot of ways, and that's kind of what it should be when it comes to these retail products, is the term the mini masterpiece. Comes with his gun, comes with his shoulder cannon, great paint scheme, looks good, not much more I could say. Like I said, the more vanilla boring of the two. But let's get into the interesting choice here of Maximal Skywarp. Now, for people that are confused, well, this isn't the Seeker Jet. This isn't the Black Seeker Jet that's part of Starscream's trio. So, back in 1997, 1998, we had a Transformer anime spin-off series called Beast Wars 2nd. Beast Wars 2nd existed because when Season 1 of Beast Wars was done in Japan, they don't like to have reruns. They like to have a consistent, ongoing time slot of a specific product. So because they knew that Season 1 was going to only be a short amount of what they normally expect of 52 episodes, in this case only 32, they figured, okay, well, until we could get those Beast Wars Season 2 and 3 episodes, which they would later repackage as Beast Wars Metal in Japan, they'll fill the gap with some anime, which they could pretty much belt out very quickly with how animation conditions are pretty much in Japan, but that's a whole other story. So an anime series was put together called Beast Wars 2nd, or Beast Wars 2, depending on who you're talking to. We're not going to split hairs on that one. But there was a character in it which, well, like most of the show, a lot of non-show toys that were available in the West were brought over there. Some of them repainted, some of them left one for one exactly the same, and introduced as different characters. The character of Baboom that was available in the West in that toy was presented as a character called Apache, and the toy was completely unchanged. Same thing with characters like the basic class Snarl turned into Tasmanian Kid. Some of those toys were unchanged, but on the flip side, there were some toys that were changed and repainted. And when you took the giant Magnaboss combiner team that was available in the West, some of the units of it had little aesthetic paint changes here and there and were released as brand new characters. Enter the Maximal of Skywarp using the Magnaboss component of Silverbolt. How was this character different? Well, his job was to be pretty much, for someone who watched the show, to sum it up simply, he was the babysitter of Lio Convoy Jr., which is the lion component of Magnaboss for people who don't know who that is, which was called Prowl here, and that again, we're going to get confusing with the names. So that character was that character, so if you're familiar with that mold from the old 1997 Beast Wars era, it was that character in the show with very minor differences aesthetically. Very, like, you know, obviously Lio Convoy Jr. compared to Prowl had a lot more paint differences, but in the case of Skywarp to the Silverbolt, not much. So now we have that painted out for you. So they obviously, Hasbro looked at the Air Razor figure, and it's like, what do you do with that mold? What do you repaint / retool it into? I was saying if you have a little fun, you can maybe do the colors of Transmetal Air Razor. There's a few things you could do, but there's not much that could really garner a better sale than something like this. So there's just enough similarities in transformation and aesthetic that you could kind of pull it off. And there's still some funny kind of kibble that exist from the original Air Razor design that have to be present with this one that don't match the show model and or the original Silverbolt / Beast Wars 2 Skywarp toy, but it's still fun, and we'll get into that. So we have the alt mode, and the alt mode hits it out of the park. It looks like an eagle. It looks fine, even though Air Razor was like a red tail hawk, I believe, and it looks just fine. It looks great. It does the job. It matches that of what even the original aesthetic of the toy and or even the show model looked like. When we get into the robot mode, that's when it gets kind of funny. And it gets into this place where it's like, yeah, they resculpted the head. That's pretty cool. You know, they managed to do that. I dig that a lot, you know, to get that show accurate, toy accurate kind of sculpt because of the way how the eagle head of the original toy went over the robot mode head. And they really played into that. Even more so in terms of a one molded piece with the show animation model for Beast Wars 2 with Skywarp. I dig that a lot. What's hilarious is because they couldn't really work out a way to get rid of the eagle head, they just have it just sitting on the chest. So it's kind of like he has a faux eagle head and a real eagle head, or, you know, in this case, the hawk head chest. So it's kind of funny how it looks. But at the end of the day, I still like how the final product looks because it looks really nice. The only complaint I have, really, of anything is it's kind of a shame that they stuck with those, like, Air Razor's wrist weapons there, those little wrist missiles or something, and they couldn't have, like, retooled a hilt on it to make it, like, two swords that could be plugged in, like 3mm peg swords instead, because that's what the original Skywarp and Silverbolt mold had. They had two little sword pieces that were part of the wings and stuff. I mean, it's small little complaint, but it's not a big deal. But it's something that would have been cool to, like, just if they could have moved that peg and put it elsewhere, but it probably would have been a tooling cost and stuff like that, so they probably didn't want to jump into it too much. But it's still pretty awesome. I dig it a lot. I like this a lot. This is definitely cool. There is one complaint. Let's talk about the price. So despite the fact that these are two deluxes, Amazon is asking $44.99, $45 pretty much for these two deluxes, which is definitely more than what it would be for two deluxes if it was a retail product. So that's kind of a shame that is like that. But again, you know, if we looked at probably how the sales were for a Grimlock and Prowl and how those sold out like crazy, I'm pretty sure Amazon was just like, you know, we saw how high they'll jump. Let's make them jump that high again. So, you know, it is what it is, like I say. So, as it stands right now, it's on Amazon, $44.99. It's up for pre-order. It will be shipping out November 1st, 2021. And the little blurb essentially says here of everything that really could be brought up is that the Battle Across Time collection allows fans to experience the clash between G1 and Beast Wars with Maximals and Autobots teaming up with Scorponok in pursuit, Sideswipe and Skywarp must team up to keep the Decepticon Predacon threat at bay, and yada yada yada. And then they talk about the individual stuff. I like that they mentioned that it's Beast Wars 2 inspired, so they're recognizing the anime exclusive line. I wonder if they're going to keep doing stuff like that, because that'd be really cool for the future in a lot of ways, that they could dive into even those characters and that pool of characters for fun and repaints and stuff. So that's cool. And not to mention just repaints, but retools if you really get really down to it. So that's really awesome. I really dig that a lot. That's cool, because I like the obscure and I like the stuff that normally we feel in the Western world would never get visited because it's not culturally known there. Character like Skywarp, yeah, his Western counterpart had that one toy release appearance in an Ultra box set, but really didn't have a cultural appearance over there like it did in the East. So it's cool that they did that. You know, obviously the decision was made more so because they had to do something with AirRaiser, but the fact that they decided to go in that route instead of just, like I said, a yellow and reddish and chromy transmetal AirRaiser that doesn't have a transmetal form, or they probably could have worked something with retooling, but still, I like that they did that decision. It's going to sell well. I know that for sure, because that Sideswipe is going to definitely carry the load, and a lot of the G1 guys are just going to buy it for that Sideswipe, and pretty much the bonus of it in a lot of ways will be the Silverbolt / Skywarp in a lot of ways, but it's still pretty cool. It's still pretty cool. The last thing I want to cover is, so usually when we look at this box art, just like how we saw the Grimlock Mirage one, we saw the wingtips of the Skywarp to kind of give us an indication that was coming. We don't really see anything with this box art right now, unless I'm missing something. Obviously on the side of it, it shows Scorponok there and what looks like, I guess, Pterosaur in pursuit, and I'm using air quotes here. Maybe that leads to what we might getting afterwards. There was previous mentions of a Pterosaur, a Waspinator, a Starscream. We will see what happens. The last set showed us a Voyager with a Deluxe. This shows here a Deluxe 2-pack, so it really shows that it could be any kind of mix and match. So we might get another Deluxe, another Voyager together, might be 2 Deluxes. It shows that it could be one or the other, if not something completely different. But this is, again, a continuation in a lot of ways of the Galactic Odyssey collection, which also didn't really have a set standard. It could be whatever it wanted to be in terms of sets, and we all know how well those sold. So don't sleep on this, guys. This is definitely going to do very well, especially that Sideswipe. That Sideswipe's going to be the go-to for a lot of people in terms of secondary market finance value. And people breaking up sets, and we're going to probably see a lot of Maximal Skywarps in the secondary market. But fine by me, because I dig that one. That's the one that I think is pretty cool out of the two, personally. I mean, I have enough Sideswipes I have enough Sideswipe toys to keep me busy for a while, including the Masterpiece. So at the end of the day, this is still pretty hype. Let me know what you think about this. I can't wait to learn more about this in the future from the other figures from this Battle Across Time collection, because it really gives the best of both worlds, and it makes two groups of fans very happy.